Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into Dan Koe's The Art of Focus. This book, let me tell you, has really shifted some things for me in terms of how we think about, well, pretty much everything.
It's not just another productivity hack, is it?
Right, and that's what grabbed me. Koe goes way deeper, arguing that focus is actually the foundation for a more fulfilling life overall.
It's like the gateway, he says, to deeper happiness, achieving goals, even experiencing the world more richly. But how often do we actually treat it that way?
Okay, so let's break that down. What do you mean treat it that way?
Well, think about it. We're bombarded with distractions constantly. Our phones, social media, the news cycle, it's relentless. Koe is basically saying if we want to regain control of our lives, it starts with understanding how focus really works.
And he would know, right? I mean, one of the things that struck me about Koe is that he's not coming from some privileged background where everything was just handed to him. He had to figure this stuff out for himself.
Absolutely. He talks about that pretty openly, which I think makes his story really relatable. He had this drive to succeed, but quickly realized that even with talent and hard work, something was missing.
And that something was focus.
Exactly. He has this quote early on that kind of sums it up. Focus is a muscle, and success is reserved for those that train it. Training, in this sense, is done at every passing moment.
Okay, so it's this ongoing process, not just something you do for an hour in the morning and then forget about.
Right. It's about making conscious choices about where our attention goes all day long.
Which is easier said than done, right? Knowing I should focus more doesn't magically make me less distractible.
Totally. And that's where I think Koe's concept of the 125 billion bits comes in. Have you heard of this?
I have, but for our listeners who haven't, can you explain?
So imagine you have $125 billion to spend each day. That's your daily focus allowance, right? Now, are you investing that money wisely? Or are you wasting it on things that don't really matter? Because those mindless minutes scrolling through Instagram, checking emails that could wait, that's all focus you're never getting back.
Wow, okay, that's a really powerful visual. Suddenly, those little distractions throughout the day seem a lot more costly.
It's about recognizing that we have a limited amount of focused attention each day. And how we choose to spend that attention, well, that shapes our reality, doesn't it?
So how do we do that? I mean, how do we go from understanding the value of focus to actually having more of it in our lives? Because just knowing I should focus more doesn't magically make me less distractible. So we're talking about focus being this finite resource, but how do we actually get better at managing it? Does Koe give specific exercises, or is it more about mindset?
It's kind of both, actually. He has this whole framework for thinking about focus that's really interesting, and some of it might surprise you.
Oh, like what?
Well, he uses this analogy of life being like a video game.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first read that, I was like, come on, really?
Yeah.
But then the more I thought about it, it kind of makes sense.
Right. It's about reframing how we view challenges, right? In a game, you expect to face obstacles, to level up your skills, to strategize. Koe wants us to bring that same mentality to our lives.
So those tough projects at work, the times when you want to give up on a goal, those are our level up moments.
Exactly. And he even takes it further with this idea of guilds, like finding your community, your people who will support you and challenge you to grow.
I love that. Because it's not about isolating yourself and just grinding it out alone. It's about recognizing, hey, I can achieve so much more when I've got people around me who get it. But then he throws in this whole collective hard drive thing, which kind of threw me for a loop.
It's a powerful metaphor, right? He's talking about how much of our programming, our beliefs, our self-image, our assumptions about the world we just inherit from our families, our culture, society at large.
And we're often not even aware of it, right? We just accept these beliefs as truth.
And that can be a pretty limiting way to live, don't you think?
Totally. But here's where it gets really interesting. Koe doesn't just leave us with this potentially disheartening realization. He offers a way out, and that's where you are the niche comes in.
He's basically saying, look, you're carrying around all this programming, some of it helpful, some of it not, but guess what? You have the power to choose what you keep and what you discard. You are the curator of your own life.
Okay, now that is empowering.
Yeah.
We're not just stuck with these beliefs and limitations that might have been passed down to us. We can break free, create something new.
And that uniqueness, that blend of your skills and experiences and perspective, that's what makes you valuable, especially in a world where everyone's trying to fit into the same mold.
Okay, yes, I am so here for that message.
Yeah.
Embrace what makes you you. That's your superpower. Don't hide it. Okay, I'm really digging this whole you are the niche thing, but how do we actually put it into practice? Knowing it intellectually is one thing, but how do we use that to achieve our goals, to really create the lives we want?
Well, that's where Koe gets really tactical. He's got tons of actionable advice in the book, but one of the key concepts he keeps coming back to is conscious narrow focus.
Conscious narrow focus. Okay, break that down for me. What does that even mean?
So think about a time when you were so engrossed in something that hours felt like minutes. Maybe you were painting, writing, coding, or even just having a really good conversation. That feeling of being completely in the zone, that's conscious narrow focus.
Okay, so tapping into that flow state where you're just completely present, fully immersed in what you're doing. I get that. I can see how that's essential for getting stuff done, for doing your best work.
Exactly. And Koe talks about finding that sweet spot between skill and challenge, right? If something's too easy, you get bored, your mind wanders. Too difficult, you get frustrated, same thing. But when you find that perfect balance where it's challenging but you're capable, that's where the magic happens.
That actually reminds me of how Koe structures his own workday. He talks about aiming for a 4-hour workday.
Which, let's be real, sounds amazing. But
there's a catch, right?
Yeah.
It's not just working less, it's about how you work during those hours.
Yeah.
He's super clear that those 4 hours are laser focused.
No distractions, no multitasking, just pure, undiluted focus on the most important tasks. It's about quality over quantity, for sure.
Right. Working smarter, not harder. But it's not all about intensity and productivity either. Koe also talks about the importance of conscious open focus, which, I don't know, at first it sounds kind of like the opposite of narrow focus, right?
It is in a way. Remember we were talking about the default mode network before, that part of our brain that lights up when we're not actively focused on a task? Well, conscious open focus is about intentionally tapping into that network, giving your mind space to wander, make connections, generate new ideas.
So it's not about zoning in, it's about zoning out, but purposefully.
Exactly. Things like going for a walk in nature, listening to music, meditating, even just daydreaming, these can all activate the default mode network and unleash a wave of creativity.
Ugh, yes, this is so me. When I get stuck on a problem, I know the best thing I can do is step away from my computer, go for a run, take a shower. Inevitably, the solution will just pop into my head, like I gave my brain permission to work on it in the background or something.
And Koe encourages us to approach our whole lives with that sense of curiosity, of experimentation. He talks about treating life like a science experiment, testing out different approaches to see what works best for you.
Yeah, he gives this example of experimenting with different planners, trying different layouts, different time blocking methods, just to see what helped him optimize his focus and productivity. I love that.
It's about being willing to try new things, tracking what works, and constantly iterating, right? Totally. And another thing Koe really emphasizes is having a strong why behind your goals. He says that really understanding your motivations, your deeper purpose for doing the things you do, that's what provides the fuel to stay focused when things get tough.
Absolutely. It's much easier to stay motivated, to push through those inevitable challenges when you have a clear sense of why you're doing something. It's about connecting to something bigger than yourself.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I've gotten so much out of this deep dive.
Me too. It's amazing how much there is to unpack with this book.
And, speaking of unpacking, there's this one concept Koe brings up that I think is really worth highlighting before we wrap things up, this idea of reproducing through spirit, not just our genes. It's such a powerful idea, right? That our impact can extend way beyond our physical presence, that we have the power to inspire others through the things we create, the lives we live, the ideas we share.
Right. So on that note, I'm curious, what's one idea, something you've learned or experienced that you'd want to pass on, to leave as your legacy, so to speak?
Wow, that's a big question. I think for me, it would be the importance of cultivating a growth mindset. This belief that we can always learn and grow no matter what our age or circumstances. It's been huge for me, and it's something I truly believe everyone can benefit from.
I love that. It's a good reminder that we're all works in progress, and that the journey of learning and growing never really ends. And for me, I think it would be the importance of following your curiosity. Even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else, even if it seems a little out there, it's in those moments of exploration that we often find our greatest passions.
Couldn't agree more.
This has been an amazing conversation. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Dan Koe's The Art of Focus. We covered a lot today, but ultimately it comes down to this. We all have the power to live more focused, more intentional lives. It's about being mindful of our attention, embracing our unique strengths, and approaching each day with a sense of purpose and curiosity. So go out there, experiment with these ideas, see what works for you, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay focused, and keep leveling up.